The Moodle quiz question and review options allow you to control what a student sees during or after a quiz attempt. Here is a new quiz with default settings that have some questions added to it. First, let's take a look at one of the questions that have been added to this quiz. I'm going to go to the gear icon in the upper right corner and choose Edit Quiz. Here are 3 multiple choice questions that have been added to this quiz. Let's take a look at the first one. Scrolling down, you can see that we have the question text, and here you can see the general feedback area where I have added some feedback. Scrolling down further, we can see the answer choices, and under each choice I have included specific feedback. Here's the correct answer. Scrolling down, we can see that I have also added feedback for the 2 incorrect choices. Scrolling down further to the combined feedback area, we can see that there is default feedback for correct, partially correct, and incorrect answers. This default feedback can be changed to anything you like. Scrolling up to my breadcrumb trail menu, I'm going to return to the quiz by opening it in a second tab. That way we can keep this question open and refer back to it. From the quiz, I'm going to go to the gear icon in the upper right corner and select Edit Settings. Expanding the question behavior settings, we can see that the default setting here is Deferred Feedback. Deferred feedback requires that the students answer each question and then submit the entire quiz before they can receive that feedback. You'll notice that there are 4 different stages that you can set review options for. During the attempt controls what a student sees while they are attempting a quiz. If options are selected in this stage, a student will receive feedback during the quiz immediately after they answer a question. Note that these options are not available when the question behavior is set to deferred feedback. Immediately after the attempt gives each student 2 minutes after they select the Submit All and Finish button to review their quiz. After 2 minutes, they cannot review their quiz attempt. Later, while the quiz is still open, allow students to review their attempt 2 minutes after selecting the Submit All and Finish button and before the quiz's close date. If a quiz does not have a close date, this phase never ends. After the quiz is closed, opens up the review options at the time that was specified for the closing date. If you have no close date, you will never get to this phase. If you select options in this phase, be sure to set a close date under the timing option. Otherwise, the students will not see their results or grades for the quiz. If you set the behavior settings to immediate feedback, the options in this first stage will be made available. Immediate feedback allows students to submit each question as they go along and to receive feedback on the individual answers. Overall feedback will not be available at this stage, but it will be available in later stages below. Notice that under each phase we have the same 7 options: the attempt, whether correct, marks, specific feedback, general feedback, right answer, and overall feedback. The attempt allows students to see the questions and how they responded. Whether correct tells the students if their answer was correct or incorrect. No other information is provided to the student. Marks allows students to see how they scored on each question and the overall quiz. If you want students to see their grades, it is important that at the very least, marks is selected under the later while the quiz is still open stage. And if your quiz includes a closing date, then be sure that marks is selected under the after the quiz is closed stage. If it is not selected, their grade will be hidden in the gradebook. Specific feedback is feedback that is individualized to each answer option. This is most commonly used for multiple choice and essay questions. Let's refer back to the question settings. Scrolling down to the answer choices, you can see an example of specific feedback. General feedback is feedback that is given for each question regardless of the student's answer. General feedback is also added within the settings for each question. Let's go to our question. Scrolling up, we can see the general feedback area. Right answer will show the student what the correct answers were to each question, regardless of whether or not the student got the question right. Overall feedback will display feedback for the entire quiz. Overall feedback is set in the quiz settings and can be used to provide feedback based on the overall score of the quiz. Scrolling down, we can expand the overall feedback area. Our first grade boundary is set to 100%. If a student gets a perfect 100% score, you can leave feedback here. You can also add more feedback fields with various boundaries. For example, I will set this one to 60% and ask that the students review last week's lesson. Scrolling up, I'm going to go ahead and check all of the review options for all stages. Note that some of these options cannot be used if the attempt is not checked. This is because those review options require that the students be able to see how they responded to each question. Also note that after the quiz is closed is not available because I have not set a closing date for the quiz in the timing settings yet. Scrolling up to the timing settings, I can enable the close quiz option by setting it to close at a future date. As you can see, the options in the stage will be made available. I can now hit save and display. The quiz is now ready to preview. Over here in another browser, I am logged in with my student account. I'm going to take the quiz as a student so that we can see how things look to a student with these new review options set up. I will answer the first question and then check my answer. This check option is available because I set my question behavior to immediate feedback. As you can see, all of the feedback that I checked to include is now visible. I have a green check mark with specific feedback, I have a message telling me that the answer is correct, and below that is my general feedback. I'm also shown once again what the correct answer is. All of the review options are currently visible because all were checked off in the review settings. Moving on, this time I will answer a question by selecting one correct choice and one incorrect choice. Notice that I am given feedback for both choices. Quickly answering the last question here, I get my feedback and I can finish this quiz attempt. Selecting Submit and Finish twice to verify that I am ready to close this quiz. I can now do a full review of my quiz because the options are set to review immediately after the quiz. Selecting Finish Review, we can see that the option for revisiting the review is still available and will remain available even after the quiz is closed. Remember to adjust these options in each phase to control when and how a student is able to receive feedback for their quiz.